Good afternoon, you're watching A News. I'm Nadia Jani. Here are the headlines. Hamas says it won't disarm until a Palestinian state is established. Russia strikes Ukrainian drone control points and Ukraine hits Russian oil facilities. And Azerbaijan starts gas exports to Syria through Turkey. The launch was marked at a ceremony in Kilis. First this afternoon, Hamas has rejected calls to disarm, pushing back against claims made by a top US envoy, Steve Witkoff. Hamas says it won't give up its weapons until a fully sovereign Palestinian state is established, rejecting claims by Steve Witkoff that the group is ready to demilitarize. Witkoff made the remarks during a visit to Tel Aviv on Friday, which Hamas discussed as a political stage show. Meanwhile, Israel's military chief says the fighting in Gaza won't stop until the hostages are released. There is mounting pressure in Israel as families of hostages held in Gaza demand action. Thousands gathered at a hostages square in Tel Aviv on Saturday, urging the government to secure a ceasefire and bring their loved ones home. Today, Israeli protesters blocked a main highway in Tel Aviv.
In Tel Aviv, hostages square, emotion poured into the streets. Families of more than 100 captives still held in Gaza gathered once again, demanding the Israeli government secure their return. Their calls come after Hamas released new footage of hostages Evyatar David and Rom Blazvatsky appearing gaunt and visibly unwell.
Watching helplessly as my younger brother Evyatar David and his fellow hostage Guy Gilboa Dalal slip away. They are on the absolute brink of death. In their current unimaginable condition, they may have only days left to live. Hamas is using Evyatar in one of the most horrific and calculated campaigns of cruelty imaginable.
My child is dying. I've seen it with my own eyes. And the Prime Minister saw it too. And he knows his situation and the situation of the rest of the hostages. And yet he chooses again and again not to save him.
Former hostage Tal Shoham, who was freed in an earlier deal, released a public video urging pressure on Hamas to feed the captives. He described militants hoarding supplies while prisoners went hungry in underground tunnels.
Behind that door, sitting Hamas terrorists, a group of them, eating plenty of food, plenty of vegetables, meat, fish, and fruits. They have everything that they need, which they stole from the humanitarian aid that was supposed to be for the people of Gaza.
On Saturday, US Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff met with hostage families in Tel Aviv as tensions mount over the pace of negotiations.
We just came out of meeting with Mr. Steve Witkoff. It was very positive and appreciated that the fact that he sat with the families for over 2 hours, listening to every personal story and hearing each individual request, and he answered the last question and didn't go until then. He talked about what is the objective. The objective are two things: ending the war and getting all the 50 hostages out.
Israel's Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir said that time was running out and that in the coming days it would become clear whether a deal could be reached for the release of the hostages. If not, he warned, military operations would continue without pause. Hostage families are now demanding a comprehensive deal to free all captives and an end to the war they say has failed to deliver them home.
11 trucks carrying vital medical supplies has reached a new World Health Organization warehouse in Gaza. The supplies were transported through Kerem Shalom and El Arish through the West Bank. The delivery comes after a severe collapse of Gaza's healthcare system. The World Health Organization says attacks on hospitals, blocked aid and arrests of medics have devastated the health services across the territory. Just 18 of Gaza's 36 hospitals remain partially functional.
Today, 11 trucks arrived from the Kerem Shalom crossing via El Arish and the West Bank. These trucks contain medical supplies and medicines to support the Gaza Strip's medical sector, including hospitals and all healthcare facilities. These supplies meet some of the needs of the devastated health sector in the Gaza Strip.
The conflict between Russia and Ukraine intensified on Saturday as both sides reported a new round of air attacks. Moscow claimed strikes on Ukrainian drone infrastructure and advances in eastern Ukraine, while Kyiv said its forces had targeted oil facilities and military sites inside Russian territory.
Russia and Ukraine exchanged a new wave of aerial attacks, with both sides claiming strikes on critical infrastructure and military targets. The Russian Defense Ministry announced Saturday that its forces had targeted Ukrainian drone production facilities and long-range drone control points. The ministry also claimed the capture of another settlement in the embattled Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine, as Russian troops reportedly advanced in the Sumy, Kharkiv and Donetsk directions. In a significant show of force, Russian air defenses were said to have intercepted over 300 Ukrainian drones and a guided aerial bomb within the last 24 hours, including 338 fixed-wing drones. Meanwhile, Kyiv confirmed launching multiple retaliatory drone strikes inside Russian territory. According to Ukraine's general staff, Ukrainian forces hit several sites, including an oil refinery, a fuel storage facility, a drone launch base in Russia's Krasnodar region, and an electronics plant in Penza. At least 3 people were reported killed and 2 others injured in the strikes. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that during July alone, Russia had launched more than 5,100 glide bombs, 3,800 Shahed-type drones, and nearly 260 missiles, 128 of them ballistic, against Ukrainian targets. Zelensky renewed his call for the international community to impose stricter economic sanctions on Moscow, warning that continued aggression would only escalate without stronger deterrence. US President Donald Trump sharply criticized Russia's behavior against Ukraine and said he plans to impose sanctions on Moscow if no agreement can be reached. He has given Russian President Vladimir Putin until the 8th of August to make a deal or face economic pressure.
Ukraine's allies are developing a new way to facilitate the purchase of US-made weapons for Kyiv, while using European funds to pay for them, pay American arms, according to Reuters. The new plan will enable NATO countries to donate weapons and bypass long delays in replenishing their own stockpiles.
If you take a look at the numbers, we're with them.
The United States and NATO are working on a new system to deliver weapons to Ukraine, with European countries covering the cost. That's according to 3 anonymous sources cited by Reuters. Under the plan, Ukraine would submit priority requests in packages worth around $500 million. NATO members would then decide who contributes or pays for each item on the list. The initiative, coordinated by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, aims to generate up to $10 billion in weapons for Ukraine. A NATO-managed account would be used to hold funds, with all transfers subject to approval by NATO's top military command. Officials describe it as a voluntary effort, but one that all allies are being encouraged to join. One US official told Reuters that countries donating weapons would be able to bypass the usual delays in replenishing their own stockpiles, a key incentive for participation. The new plan would operate alongside the existing US drawdown authority. Talks are already underway for the first batch of weapons under the scheme, but sources say it's not yet clear if any money has been transferred or when deliveries might begin.
US President Donald Trump has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be repositioned after threats from former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. President Trump posted on Truth Social on Friday, but did not say where the submarines were being deployed to. The Kremlin has not yet responded to the issue.
Amid rising social media tensions between Trump and Medvedev, the US president has ordered 2 nuclear submarines to reposition in the appropriate regions. The move, announced on Trump's Truth Social platform, was in direct response to what he called highly provocative threats from former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. Trump warned that while he hopes the comments were just words, words can lead to unintended consequences.
You know, the nuclear submarine.
Oh yeah, well we had to do that. We just have to be careful. And a threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
This follows Trump's newly shortened deadline for Moscow to end its war in Ukraine, cutting it from 50 to 10 days and warning of sanctions if no ceasefire is reached by August 8th. Medvedev, now deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, fired back online, accusing Trump of playing a dangerous ultimatum game and warning that each threat brings the world closer to war. While the Kremlin says its military operation in Ukraine will continue, it has yet to respond directly to the submarine deployment. Trump's announcements have unsettled Russian markets, with Moscow's stock exchange taking a notable hit. The US has not disclosed the submarine's exact locations or capabilities, consistent with military protocol. But both countries maintain the world's largest nuclear arsenals, with submarines playing a key strategic role. Tensions between Trump and Medvedev have escalated sharply in recent days, and with nuclear submarines now in motion, the world is watching closely.
The UN has held a high-level Security Council meeting on the war in Ukraine. Officials warned of escalating civilian casualties and renewed calls for a ceasefire and a diplomatic solution.
The situation in Ukraine has sharply deteriorated after a deadly wave of missile and drone strikes on Kyiv killed at least 31 people and injured over 150, including 16 children. The United Nations Security Council met to address the growing crisis and discuss steps to achieve the peace. The US repeated its warning that time for diplomacy is running out.
In light of Russia's intensified aerial assaults on Ukraine and the increasing toll on civilian life, on July 29th, President Trump clearly stated a peace deal must be done within 10 days. Otherwise, the United States is prepared to implement additional measures to secure peace. President Trump is offering both Russia and Ukraine a way out of this conflict. Once again, we implore them to take it.
Ukraine's representative said the attacks are part of a deliberate campaign to terrorize civilians and blamed foreign military support to Moscow for prolonging the war.
Once again, the world witnessed Russia's response to our desire for peace, shared with the United States and Europe, with new killings and more destroyed homes. It is a deliberate campaign to terrorize civilians and destroy any notion of normal life in Ukraine.
Russia denied targeting civilians and accused Kyiv of manipulating the Council to maintain Western backing. The UN urged all parties to commit to a full ceasefire and return to talks.
Iran has fully reopened its airspace, lifting all restrictions imposed during the recent 12-day conflict with Israel, the Civil Aviation Organization confirmed. Domestic and international flights have returned to normal, with Tehran's Mehrabad airport now operating 24 hours a day. The airspace was closed on the 13th of June following the Israeli airstrikes and started to reopen on the 26th of June. All airports resumed back by the 17th of July, except for Mehrabad, which had limited hours up until now. US President Donald Trump is ramping up efforts to expand the Abraham Accords, and this time the focus is on Azerbaijan and its Central Asian neighbours. The talks mark one of the most structured diplomatic pushes since the Accords began. According to reports, Trump's administration is in advanced talks with Azerbaijan to bring the country and possibly other Central Asian allies into the Abraham Accords. The expansion emphasises closer cooperation in trade and defence. In a watershed moment for regional energy cooperation, Azerbaijan has started gas exports to Syria through Turkey. The launch was marked at a ceremony in the city of Kilis, attended by ministers and officials from Azerbaijan, Turkey, Syria and Qatar. Our reporter Leila Rahimli has more.
It is a historic day for regional energy cooperation and diplomacy. For the first time ever, Azerbaijan natural gas is flowing into Syria, officially marking the start of gas exports via Turkey's Kilis province. This is not just a new trade route, it is a powerful symbol of shifting alliance and growing energy diplomacy in the Middle East. The pipeline connection delivered 3.4 million cubic meters of gas per day, enough to meet the needs of nearly 5 million Syrian households. Energy experts say that this is not just help stabilize Syria's war-damaged energy infrastructure and kickstart wider reconstruction efforts. But what makes this moment even more significant is the political backdrop. The gas deal follows months of strategic dialogue between Azerbaijan and Syria's transitional government, including 2 meetings this year between President Ilham Aliyev and Syria's transitional president Ahmed al-Shara, one in Antalya in April and another one just last month in Baku. These engagements laid the groundwork for what is now being called a new phase of cooperation between Baku and Damascus, expanding from dialogue to strategic partnership with the energy and its core. Following the initial contacts, Azerbaijan showed early support for Syria's territorial integrity and sovereignty during its transitional period. In May, President Ilham Aliyev sent Deputy Prime Minister Samir Sharifov to Damascus to explore reconstruction, energy, cultural and educational collaboration. Now the gas flow represents the first real outcome of those talks and signals Azerbaijan's intent to play a broader role in the post-conflict stabilization efforts across the region. Currently, Azerbaijan gas reached 12 European countries, but this Syrian road through Turkey is Azerbaijan's first active pipeline access into the Middle East, marking a turning point in Baku's energy export geography. And it is also a step toward energy market diversification. If the Syria-Jordan gas pipeline previously damaged during the conflict is restored, Azerbaijan could potentially reach Egypt, opening a southern corridor into North Africa. This is not just only boosts Azerbaijan's global energy profile, but also adds a new dimension to regional diplomacy. Baku now positions itself as a neutral, reliable energy supplier and a bridge between Europe and the Arab world. It is worth noting that Azerbaijan is also increasing its electricity production, particularly through renewables. This is mean green energy exports to the Middle East may follow further deepening ties with Syria as it rebuilds its power grid. In short, today's gas launch is more than just a technical milestone, it's the beginning of a wider transformation. And this is Leyla Rahimli reporting from Turkey Kilis for A News.
Turkey's Minister of Energy and Natural Resources gave an exclusive interview to A News. The minister highlighted the humanitarian importance of gas supply project to Syria and its role in supporting stability across the region.
But in the middle of summer, if you say people that we are supplying gas to Syria, maybe people will not understand, because basically this is not for heating, but basically this is for power generation. Because there are power generation plants in Syria, but unfortunately they don't have gas. And when they don't have gas, there is no electricity generation. And unfortunately in Syria today, they only supply 4 to 5 hours electricity to people. So that's why we started to develop this project to normalize the life in Syria and for Syrian people. Because especially after the collapse of Assad regime, it was very important for Turkey and for the region to keep the stability in the region, peace and stability, to provide this to region and Syria. So that's why we started to develop some projects in the field of energy, because whatever you ask, it requires investment in Syria. Energy infrastructure, transportation, energy transmission, distribution, gas, and everything. So that's why we developed this project together with Azerbaijan, with the help and support of Qatar, this state-level involvement, and a great example of how regional cooperation will help the security of supply of country and region. Through this project, we are going to be able to supply electricity to almost 5 million households in Syria. Well, frankly, we were planning this for several months, and it wasn't an easy project because this territory, we are just kilometers away from the Syrian-Turkey border. And this border, there was some areas have some mines. So first we need to clean up this area to prepare this interconnection facility. And then in a very short period of time, we collect all the relevant equipment because normally it takes like a year or two to develop this interconnection. But through this, and we help also Syrian side to prepare their side, their territory investment. And through this, we were able to supply gas to Syria. And this is important, and Azerbaijan and Janaab President Aliyev look at this project as like a humanitarian project. And their last conversation with President Erdogan in Hankendi, in our president visit, they decided to include Azerbaijan to this project with SOCAR. They are producing gas. They are supplying gas to everywhere, Turkey, to Europe. But the very first time, gas from Azerbaijan will reach to Middle East country, Syria, and help, inshallah, to normalize life in Syria and bring peace, stability and prosperity to the region.
The first meeting of the Turkish Parliament's Commission on the Disarmament of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, also known as the PKK, is scheduled for the 5th of August. The Commission will include deputies from parties represented in Parliament, will work on developing the legal framework for the PKK disarmament process. The party, which is outlawed and recognised as a terrorist organisation in the country, announced its intention to disband in May. And Armenia and the United States will carry out joint military exercises on the 12th through the 20th of August. The Armenian Defense Ministry said that the Eagle Partner 2025 exercises will involve servicemen of the Peacekeeping Brigade of the Armed Forces of Armenia, along with the US Army, Europe, Africa and the Kansas National Guard. The drills are designed to prepare and carry out peacekeeping tasks with an emphasis on medical evacuation procedures. That's all we have for you now from Baku. Stay tuned to A News for more updates and enjoy the rest of your weekend.